So we are recording now. Welcome everyone to our Ask Us weekly webinar from Cloud Business Blueprint. My name is Robert Crane. Unfortunately, Nigel can't join us this week. He is otherwise preoccupied. He did a fantastic job last week. The recording is up on YouTube if you want to have a look at it. Plenty of great information there and some great interactions from people that did attend. So it's fantastic to know that we've got, like I said, somebody else that can handle the job when someone like myself isn't available. So again, thanks to Nigel and to everybody who contributed in that option. So what we'll look at today, we'll do the same sort of format. We'll look at some news, run some questions, discuss some, actually not new purchasing offers. We'll have a look at the new offerings, the new ways that Office 365 will become available very shortly, and then we'll do a wrap up. So let's look at some news. If you aren't aware, we are doing there are Express Data Office 365 seminars running around Australia. Completed the first one in Melbourne this week, going to Adelaide next week, Perth, Sydney, and then Brisbane. If you haven't registered as yet and you want to come along, I think it's a worthwhile exercise. I think there's some information there that's worthwhile people. It's only 2 hours, breakfast obviously included. It's aimed at letting you know what opportunities there are with the new vehicles for Office 365, as well as what services people like BD can offer around that. And on that score, there's also Synix offers. So Synix, obviously another large supplier, also providing Office 365 via volume licensing and wrapping their services around it. So they've got themselves their own MVP, and they're doing sessions in Sydney and Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. So there's the URL there. I'll post all these up on a blog post, but if you do want them or a copy of the slides, send me an email and I can make that available. So I'll show you some of these once we've gone through all these bits and pieces here. The other thing, obviously, is in response to these new offers from Microsoft. Telstra has recently announced new pricing. So if you are using the T-Suite product, you will see new pricing from the 5th of March. Exactly how that will flow through and when you will see that is a good question. I've never found Telstra particularly transparent the way that they do their pricing. It is a little bit complicated, but in theory the prices have come down. We'll have a look at that shortly, what differences there is. Don't forget that Microsoft is running its Cloud Champion course. You can sign up there and get an idea of the overview, what sort of content they're running for the next 12 weeks. Again, free webinar for partners. The other thing I'll highlight is that I recently did the beta exam for the 71346 and the 71347, which isn't listed there. Both exams are the enterprise versions of the Office 365 exams. My comments on that is that 346 you'll certainly need to know your hybrid. You'll need to know some on-premise, how it works with Exchange Server, ADFS, those sort of things. The 347 is more about configuring services, so it's typically about PowerShell. A lot of PowerShell questions around provisioning things like users, Exchange, SharePoint, and links. So you're really going to be tested across a broad range of PowerShell options when you do these exams. My general advice would be is to sit the 74325, which is the small business exam first. Perhaps not as in-depth as these two exams, but it'll get you up to speed and get you on the process. These exams certainly are passable. They're much better than the previous exams in my opinion, but you'll certainly need to work to pass them because they are very enterprise focused, they are very technically focused. So the other thing I'll mention quickly is the MVP Comp Camps. These are community events run in each capital city that feature MVPs speaking typically around their expertise, run on a Saturday. There'll also be webinars run during the week. This is something run all the way around the world. So if you want some in-depth knowledge on some products, not just cloud products, I would suggest that you go and have a look at that. Sign up my blog post recently that mentions that. So let's just pop out and have a quick look at this. So here's our new Telstra pricing list from the link. You'll see that some of the plans like here, the P1's gone down $1.20, the E plan $3.80. Interestingly, what I think is probably the best value plan, the E3 has dropped $5, the E4 $5.85. So they're significant drops in price percentage-wise. The biggest drop down here is the Office Professional Plus. That's gone from $26 to $19, so that was a price that was out of whack even after the last change. So Telstra's obviously bringing these prices in line with what can be expected from Microsoft. So my gut feel is that Microsoft will be announcing their open value licensing and their portal purchasing prices on Monday the 5th, Monday the 4th, and then everybody's going to know. So I would expect Microsoft prices to be very similar to what you see here. They may even be a little bit cheaper, but again, more flexibility. So be aware that the Telstra has decreased the pricing. The other thing there is these are the exams here. So again, I've got a blog post here that talks about it. You can go in and have a look at, for example, the 7347 exam, give you some idea of what's involved in that. Again, I think if you're going to look to do enterprise stuff, if you're going to look to be involved in Office 365 beyond just an SMB level, I think it's certainly worthwhile looking to achieve these exams. They're going to give you some benefit and help you stand out from the crowd down the track. So again, still tough, but they are doable. Now, the other thing I mentioned there was the comp camp. So again, if you go to my blog, I think it's one of the last entries here. Basically here you'll see that you can sign up for the comp camps. This is the Sydney one. In here you'll see a number of different sessions that are available. So we're talking about Windows 8.1, Azure, web development. So it runs on a Saturday, runs pretty much all day, at least in Sydney it will. A lot of in-depth technical things there. So if you are interested, do sign up for those, because I think there is plenty of great information that will be available there. I'll show you the Cynic offer. So here's the sim. I'm doing the ED ones. Obviously, this is the Cynic's offer. So if you haven't seen this, they're basically running sessions only in Sydney and in Melbourne, and they're running 2 sessions a day. So again, if you want to see the agenda, bottom line is they're looking for you to use Cynics to sell the open value stuff. So that's basically the agenda. Very similar, I suppose, in a lot of cases, but obviously not going as broadly as the ED one. So if you're interested in that, if you're a Cynics reseller, then that's probably worthwhile having a look at. So I can send you all those links. So the other thing that's come out of interest here is Microsoft recently announced that it's going with Office Online. So it's sort of rebranding Office Web Apps and now calling it Office Online. So if you go to office.com, you'll see a new website with a fluid interface or Metro style layout, and you can just click on one of these applications and then you can start using Word, Excel, PowerPoint or whatever directly as a web app. So it seems that the direction that Microsoft's going is in response to what Google does with its Google Docs. Again, it'll be interesting to see how all this pans out and how this actually works its way back into the Office 365 product. Whether the Office web apps in Office 365 will have more features than what's being offered here through office.com, but again, very interesting. It allows people to start using those products without having to have them on the desktop. Obviously, the other talk now is that once this has become available, what's going to happen with Office on the iPad. The feeling is that Office for the iPad is closer than what most people think. There is talk about it being available end of March, early April, but again, with all things Microsoft, we just need to wait and see. But it certainly seems to be recognition that that product will be becoming available very shortly. So certainly something to have a look at. Keep in mind, again, the trend is to more and more cloud offerings, and again, good to see Microsoft moving in that sort of direction, which is really handy. Another little product that that Nigel has recommended have a look at all is Tag Office 365 is basically thefullsuite.com. So go and have a look at that, and basically what it allows you to do, one of the options here, it allows you to, in here, Suite Explorer, basically put an interface or a skin, I suppose, over the top of SharePoint and let users use SharePoint like files and folders. So Again, it's got some good wraps. A lot of customers have trouble moving to SharePoint because they simply want files and folders in the cloud, and SharePoint's a little bit more complicated than that, usually involves a little bit more work. So putting a nice simple interface over the top of it I think has a lot of benefits. So Nigel's positive on this product, so I think it's worthwhile if you get a chance going in and having a look at thefullsuite.com and report back and just let us know what you find and what your experience is. And I've asked for a trial as well, so I can do some in-depth research and then write a blog post on it and go from there. So certainly something else worth having a look at that Nigel did want to bring to everybody's attention. So, all right, so let's go back to the end of the news there. So if there's nothing else. So yeah, that's sort of all the news I have for this week. Does anybody have any questions or any news they want to speak about? Again, if you do, by all means, please ask a question away, take yourself off mute. Any questions valid, so fire away, basically. So are there any questions or queries out there? I can take people off mute. Just put your hand up. There's an option there to put your hand up, and I can unmute you. Like I said, if there's no questions immediately, let's have a bit of a discussion then, I suppose, around the new options. So here in Australia, our options have been limited to T-Suite. Now that is changing to include two important new options. Obviously you can now purchase via volume licensing, via Open, and that means one of the big benefits there is that it allows you to legally run the Office desktop software from Office 365 on a terminal server. So at the moment, if you purchase Office 365 via the console, through the T-Suite console, you're not licensed to run it on a terminal server. And going forward, when the Microsoft portal becomes available, if you purchase it from the Microsoft console, you still won't be able to run it legally on terminal server. The only way that you can do that is to purchase it via open licensing. The downside to open licensing and the Microsoft portal is going to be the fact that it's going to be a 12-month commitment. So you'll be able to elect to be billed month by month with the Microsoft console, but it will still be a 12-month minimum commitment. So that, as I understand it, means that if you want to cancel that, you would have to pay out the contract. If you want to decrease your licenses over that 12-month period, you would have to pay some penalty, I suppose, for cancelling the licenses. So be aware of that. That is where, I suppose, Telstra provides the advantage at the moment in the market. They will seem to want to be retaining their month-by-month payments. So a customer can sign up for a month and then cancel and only pay for a month. But I'm not sure how much longer that will retain, because it gives Telstra an opportunity, obviously, to come up to the Microsoft product and get a 12-month commitment out of people. So be interesting to see the take-up. Microsoft and all the distributors like Synix and ED are very positive on the fact that they see a lot of demand for Office 365 through Open and also through the Microsoft console coming after the 2nd of April. We will certainly wait and see. But there are some differences in the offerings, and as Mark has indicated here, T-Suite is going to be rebranded. I think that sort of makes sense, because I don't think Telstra necessarily wanted to be equated with the old version. They're looking at obviously making it a new product with a new offering, so that they can distinguish themselves from the Microsoft side. They're still going to have their AEs out there selling it, but obviously now there's going to be a lot more competition. One of the questions that a lot of people have is moving from the Telstra arrangement to a Microsoft console or to an open license. I don't see that as happening, at least initially. There's not going to be any migration path. Down the track there may be, but at release I wouldn't expect there will be any ability to transfer from a Telstra arrangement or plan into an open value or to a Microsoft console. They are completely different offerings, and at this stage will remain so for the foreseeable future. So that answers that question. Again, that is going to create probably perhaps a little bit of confusion in the market, maybe a bit of frustration for people who do want to change, because as I understand it, again, the open licensing and the Microsoft console are going to give you immediate access to Project Online, which has been slated to be released by Telstra for over 12 months now and still has not been released. Whether Telstra is also going to bring that to market will be another interesting opportunity. But again, what you're going to find is the Microsoft offering is going to be very much like what's available in the rest of the world, which basically allows all the products to be available to resellers, to do delegated admin, to do all the standard stuff that we see everywhere else in the world. Telstra will still have some limitations, and my general take on it is the Telstra side of it probably is going to be aimed at the smaller P plans, but again, time will tell at this stage. But the good thing is we're certainly getting a lot more options. You're getting more flexibility. You're getting the ability to go to remote desktop if you want, but there's still going to be some challenges around moving licenses between existing clients and understanding the difference with open. So if you haven't started engaging with that and you are interested in doing that, my recommendation is obviously to get involved with people like Cynix. Ingram are also doing it, and also Express Data, and come up to speed with what they're offering and their price list, which, as I mentioned, will be released on Monday. So we should see the prices as compared to the Microsoft offering, but I would expect them to be very similar to what Telstra is offering. So are there any comments or questions from the audience at this stage? So again, you'll need to unmute yourself if you do want to mention something, or place your hand up, or type a question into the question box, and I'm happy to answer that. At this stage, there's no questions that haven't been answered. So I'm happy to go on for probably another 10 or so minutes, but unless we can, unless there are some specific questions that people want answered, I don't want to hold you up from the rest of your day. Again, just either unmute yourself and ask a question, or type into the question window, or again, you've also got the chat option. So the options, I think, are going to sort of bring a lot more players into the market. It's going to focus a lot more on Office 365 as a solution. I think it's going to mean a fairly rapid increase in sales, at least initially, here in Australia. Pent-up demand for the product is going to make it probably easier to obtain, and probably less impediment when speaking to certain customers. Now, the Telstra offering obviously provides still some benefit for a lot of people, but again, it's something you need to consider as a reseller very carefully as to what the benefits provide, because again, you're moving from a month-by-month contract to a minimum 12-month spend. So again, it's important to know the positives and the negatives of the product on offer. But more choice is always better, and a good thing is that choice has brought about a decrease in prices. Unfortunately, I believe that would also mean a decrease in commissions, because the product is actually worth less. All right, so we've got a question here. Looking into running Office 365 on IDS, I was advised that we need to purchase an open license. That is correct. At the moment, what would need to happen is it's technically possible to install Office 365, Office from Office 365 on terminal server, but it's not licensed. If you purchase it through the console, you can't license it. So after April 2nd, if you want to run it on an RDS box, you'll need basically to purchase an open license key product. So again, you only need 5 licenses of any Microsoft product, be that Mice or Terminal Server CALs, to get into open. My understanding also is that if you speak to Microsoft after purchasing Office 365, including Office under open, I'm pretty sure they'll be able to provide you with an open license key to be able, and an ISO download that you can install on a terminal server. But at this stage, my understanding is yes, you have to purchase the media and also one open license of Office, so that you can place it on a terminal server. So when you do purchase the Office licensing, the open licensing, you'll buy 15 Office 365 licenses under open, and you'll need to get one media kit, which includes obviously a download of the media and also, I believe, a appropriate key to allow you to install it on your RDS server. So that's my understanding. Hopefully that's answered your question. We obviously will need to wait until we get full confirmation from Microsoft, but at the end of the day, you need to purchase the Office 365 under open after April 2nd, and when you do, you need to ask for a key for Office that will allow it to physically be installed on a terminal server. Okay, so another question here is currently testing RDS config for client on Azure, and that is the only thing that's holding me up. Tests are looking good, currently running under SPLA. So I'm not a licensing MVP, so I can't tell you how Microsoft does its licensing. Even when you speak to Microsoft people, you can get a different answer. I'm happy to chase it up with people, but again, my understanding is that you would need to obviously obtain the media and a key that allows you to install on an RDS server, so you can't put the fully purchased product on, you can't use that and put it on a terminal server. You need a version of Office that has an open or a volume licensing key. So how you go about getting that, my understanding is you need to get in contact with Microsoft, or you add that to your open agreement when you purchase it, and then you can then install it. So that's my understanding of how it works, but it works quite well. The main impediment hasn't been technical, the main impediment has been licensing. So at any point in time, even going forward, if you purchase Office 365 from the console, so if you purchase from the Microsoft console or T Suite console, it's not licensed to run on a RDS server, on a terminal server. If you want to run it on a terminal server, you must purchase it under a volume licensing agreement, which will be open. So that's a differentiation there. All right, so hopefully that answers that question. Are there any other questions or comments that people want to make? Again, we've got, unless there's a burning issue or people want to talk about anything specific, I don't want to hold you up from your day, so we can give it 5 minutes. If there's some burning question or some comment that you wish to make, please do. Okay, no problems, Mark. Good to have you on board again. Good luck with your client. So thanks, Mark, for coming along and providing all the information. That's great. Is there anybody else who's got a specific question or wants to know something that's been mentioned in the forum? So what I'll do here is just run over a few things that we've had in here. So I've posted up the changes to the Telstra pricing in here for people. So down the bottom here, you'll find a link to the T Suite price changes. So you can then download those. Some of the other questions we've had recently are around things like PowerShell. So I'm rewriting my Introduction to PowerShell book, but if you are a Cloud Business Blueprint member, you'll find that there is already a PowerShell course down here. So in there we've got 6 lessons, including documentation and videos on how to connect to Office 365 with PowerShell. The book that I'm updating will obviously include more information about doing those sort of things. Okay, so we've got a question about running a hybrid config with Office 365 mid-size license. You can certainly run a hybrid configuration with Office 365, but I think the question is around the licensing of Exchange. So if you want to maintain an on-premise Exchange and an Office 365 Exchange as well, I think that's where you can run into issues around that. The M license certainly supports ADFS, certainly supports AD integration. My understanding is the question that needs to be answered is around on-premise, retaining on-premise Exchange and the licensing for that and message routing. My gut feeling would be it's probably not supported because those are enterprise products, but you would need to take that up with Microsoft directly to get an answer to that. But certainly the M plan will support a hybrid deployment, but I'm not sure how well it will support all the features of a hybrid exchange. I believe it would support a hybrid exchange provided the local on-premise Exchange server is also enterprise version of Exchange. So if you have a mid-sized license and you want to do hybrid and you want to get all the features on-prem and in the cloud, my understanding is you need an enterprise version of Exchange on-premise to achieve that. But don't quote me on that. And if you've got a specific question, I'll put it together and I can get an answer from people. But the specific licensing, again, I'm not an expert on licensing, but that is my understanding. You need enterprise locally to do all the features like message routing through that. So hopefully that will answer that question. Is everyone looking to start studying for the Small Business Cloud exam soon? We could do a virtual study group. So what I am doing is I'm updating that guide. So let me just pull that up for you quickly and just show you what I'm doing for the next version. So what I'm doing here for the next version of those notes, which I hope to get out very soon, is too many windows open. Let me go back here and I'll now move this across so everybody can see it. So what I've got now here is I've now developed and finishing off a study plan. So a 30-day study plan basically to step you through what you should be covering based on these notes. The next plan, I don't know if this will make this version, is to actually go through and do the labs. But the way I would see it is you should be able to achieve what you need to achieve in a 30-day plan. And again, this is the updated version, which I will hopefully be making available shortly. But if you want to create a virtual study group, Sonia, I would suggest the best idea is to post something in the Cloud Business Blueprint forum here, and then we can look at organising and get some interested people, and maybe we can schedule a regular go-to webinar meeting to do studies. So if you want to do that, I suggest you post in the forum here, and let's see what sort of interest there is. Otherwise, I'm happy to give you any other support that you need. So again, if you want a study group, post in the forums, and let's see what comes back as to who's interested. So hopefully that answers those questions. Anybody else? Anybody other questions that we've got there? So let's see what else is new here on the forums that's of worthwhile. PowerShell, yep, that was me. Let's have a look here. So yeah, I've made the Wave 14 link online. So what I've also done recently is .com/publications. What I've recently done is release a Getting Started with Link Online book that people can download from Amazon or my site directly. Good one to refer customers to so they can get up to speed with using Link on their desktop. However, that book is also available as a rebrandable option for Cloud Business Blueprint members. So if we go to the forums and you go down to the bottom here, you'll find under the book club, we've got the option here to download a number of free books, a part of your membership. And the Getting Started with Link is one that you can rebrand, and also Getting Started with SharePoint is also another book you can rebrand. But there are a number of others here, including the Getting Started for PowerShell, that are available to people, members, to use. But if you want to, find all the publications generally on my personal publications page if you want to refer customers or other people that you know to those publications. What else have we got here that was worthwhile? Let's have a look. Okay, so again, I'm running a number of meetups. So the next meetup is based in Adelaide. So if you know anybody in Adelaide that's interested, it'll be the night before the presentation I'm doing in Adelaide on the 4th. I need to update this, but if you are in Adelaide and wish to be involved, please RSVP there or contact me directly via email. There'll be one in Perth and Sydney, as well as one in Brisbane. So by all means, get involved with that. So that's sort of a brief overview of what's happening in the Cloud Business Blueprint Forum. Are there any more specific questions? Okay. Okay, so Sonia, yep, okay, thanks for that, Sonia. Are there any more specific questions that people want or feedback? By all means, if there's not, I will certainly look at closing this webinar down and let you get on with other things in your day. Don't forget that we do record the webinars and post them up on YouTube later, so if you do happen to miss them, otherwise the webinars are obviously every week. If you're not a member of Cloud Business Blueprint, we'd certainly like you to sign up to get all the benefits, and you can do that at cloudbusinessblueprint.com/members-sign-up. You can always send through suggestions, feedback, what you'd like to see. If you've got a question that you would like to see answered, specifically in Office 365, remember that we do record the sessions, so you can watch those recordings later if you do have a specific question. So please send those through to us, and we'll make sure that we do a presentation on that for you. Are there any other questions? Is that the last slide? It's the last slide. Okay, so I'm going to put myself on mute. I'm happy to hang around here and answer anything that pops up, but unless there's something specific, I thank you very much for attending. Don't forget to attend next week. Send your questions and your feedback through, and we'll speak then.